Hello, I'm Dr. George Giuliani, and I'm a PhD licensed clinical psychologist. I'm also a full professor at the CW Post campus of Long Island University. I'm going to read to you for approximately 3 minutes, and then we'll discuss how to teach children to think and act fairly. This entire presentation will take less than 7 minutes. I published a book called How to Teach Children to Think and Act Fairly. As you know, there is an epidemic of bullying in America. Fortunately, there are now new laws that help to prevent bullying, but the new laws need some help. We need to get to the hearts and the minds of young children so that they will never want to bully others, which is what my book is about. And it's done through the medium of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Why use Rudolph? For 4 good reasons. 1, because so many children see the video every year, and 2, because Santa's 10 negative policies are so blatantly wrong, and 3, because they are insidious, that is, they are enticing and harmful, and 4, because it's very easy for the children to learn about fairness through this medium. In the introduction of this book, I make it very clear that Santa is a very good man, but he did have some flaws in each of his 10 policies at the North Pole. In this book, his wife, Mrs. Claus, realized this and decided to point out to Santa these 10 negative policies. Because Santa was such a good man, he immediately realized that she was right on each account. He then decided to change the North Pole from an exclusion environment to an inclusion environment. Seated next to me are 2 of my favorite people, Camille and Ed. They're going to help me show you how we can teach children to think and act fairly by asking questions. I think it can be done. We represent the generation that was raised in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, when parents could pretty much control what their children saw and heard. We're concerned that it's close to impossible today for parents to do that. So let's get on with how it can be done. Children love to learn through playing games. If you are a teacher, break up the class into groups and see which group can find the most examples of negative policies in each chapter, such as bullying and mocking. Then have them discuss and debate what is fair and unfair about these issues. If you are a parent using this at home with your own children, give them 10 points for each of the negative policies they find, and then give them another 10 points for each policy they can remember 10 minutes later. Camille, how about we start with your question of me?
In the video, you say that there is a great deal of rejection of Rudolph by children and adults, and that its story encourages children to reject and mock other children who have a disability. Will parents and teachers really learn how to change all this from reading your book?
Oh, yes. And as an example, page 55 tells you about the 7 different moments when Rudolph was rejected. And then on page 65, it gives you 9 questions to ask the children about rejection, which can lead to loads of discussions and debates. The book does this for each of Santa's 10 negative policies. Here's a quick summary of where to find important information. Pages 55 to 58 gives the reader examples of wrong messages shown in the video. Lesson plans for adults are on pages 63 to 73, and chapters 2 through 11, pages 23 through 49, represent the meat of the book where children will read about the 10 negative policies and learn about fairness. Ed, how about a question from you?
Dr. Giuliani, my question is very similar to Camille's. One of the chapters in your book deals with sexism. Do young children really understand the concept of sexism?
Oh, yes, they do. They will easily understand that it wasn't fair that girls were not allowed to try out for the reindeer team just because they were girls.
I found this book to be very clever, but why did you decide to write this book?
I teach graduate students who are preparing to become special education teachers. For several semesters, I showed my students the video of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and asked them to jot down any positive and negative concepts they perceived in the video and to hand them in anonymously. These students said that the basic message of the video seemed to be that it was all right to mock and bully children with perceived disabilities. Most of them said that they had never realized how many negative concepts were insidiously being taught to millions of young children every Christmas season. That is when I realized that this book had to be written. I'll tell you one quick story. I was invited by Fox News to be on 17 of its talk shows. I was amazed at how many adults called in or emailed me to tell me that it's okay to bully disabled children because it makes them tougher for what they're going to encounter as they get older. Fortunately, many called and emailed me to agree with the concepts of my book. I hope this helps you on how to teach children to think and act fairly. To purchase this book, go to www.teachingchildrenaboutfairness.com. The cost is only $7.99. And thanks for listening. And remember, go to www.teachingchildrenaboutfairness.com.